that affected some 17 counties across the state of Mississippi. I thought today I'd give you as much detail as we know about it. I hate to say that we were fortunate, but in some ways we were. At midnight last night, I would have thought we would have had much more information to give you of a disastrous nature. We were fortunate, even though we have a loss of life, one fatality because of the storm. It could have been much worse. The conditions of that storm appeared to be very violent, and had it, for example, struck the Mississippi State Starkville area, disastrous conditions could have occurred after that. We will tell you that these 17 counties include those of Warren and Monroe, which received the most damage. Just now there were, as I said, one fatality. 9 individuals were taken to emergency rooms across the state. 4 of those have been admitted to the hospital and remained there at that time, so a total of 11 injuries. 1 in Warren County, 1 in Madison County, where a tree fell on a house in Madison County. Surprisingly, just now there are no shelters open because there has been no need. Individuals that have been displaced are staying with friends or families. There are roughly 26,000 power outages that continue. We know those numbers are going down. The power companies are doing all that they can now to restore power to those houses that can take and are in good enough structural condition to be able to take power to them. We have 28 roads that remain closed. Many of these are rural roads that were closed due to flooding. We have 18 roads that have been damaged that are closed or may have to be closed in the future once additional examination has been done. 64 residents are currently affected by this to some extent. 15 businesses have also been affected by the storm at 4 apartment complexes. The Hamilton Fire Department, Hamilton's in Monroe County, Hamilton Fire Department has been destroyed. There were no injuries there, but it received severe storm damage. And we are now looking at assessments, so we will continue with that. I just moments ago signed a declaration of emergency along with the support and signature of the Secretary of State, declaring all those affected areas are now and will remain under a state of emergency as we go about completing the assessments. Another incident that took place on yesterday, and we are uncertain if it was related to the storm. We do not believe it. It may have been, but there is a Cessna Sabre Learjet that had crashed yesterday in Union County. Reports are that there are 3 fatalities in that plane crash. So additional information will be furnished by Sheriff Jimmy Edwards of Union County at approximately 3:30 p.m. this afternoon. But this this commercial individual flight, the Learjet, did go down in Union County at approximately 5 p.m. yesterday, and there are 3 fatalities. So I want to thank Greg Michel and his team. I know Greg and I were in communication with each other late into the evening and early this morning. He and the MEMA team have been doing an excellent job. I'm going to call on him to tell you where we're at moving forward, and then would ask and allow Marshall Official to then come forward and talk about the reaction and what we are doing now with the Department of Public Safety. So Greg, if you'll come forward and let us know what MEMA is doing during this time.
Thank you, Governor. Appreciate it. Let me just first of all thank our partners that worked through the night last night to ensure that we established our lifelines and our communities that were affected by this storm. We just deployed about 27 search and rescue elements last night about midnight. Those individuals went in and were deployed to Monroe County to assist with the aftermath of that effort. Anytime a storm comes through at night, it certainly brings about a higher level of stress, and we were able to send elements out there. Given the fact that the fire station was destroyed in Hamilton, we were pushing those resources out, so we appreciate the folks from the search and rescue Mississippi Highway Patrol sent additional units out there as well last night to assist us with that, as well as MDOT. And I just want to just make a point, you know, all of these emergency responders and first responders have been engaged since Christmas. Mississippi has certainly had its fair dose of severe weather since Thanksgiving and Christmas. It seems like we just can't get our breath. So these individuals have been working tirelessly since then, and certainly all through the night. I just want to thank them so very much. What are we doing now? So we've got MEMA personnel or have been engaged in these communities and will continue to be engaged in these communities. We seem to be, for the most case, getting a handle on the response piece. Of course, the first priority is to establish safety and security for those individuals that are affected by the storm. We are not aware of anyone that is displaced without shelter at this time. There are no shelters open, have not been needed. Most everyone has been displaced with family and friends. Search and rescue efforts have been suspended. Turn that over to the local communities in all the areas. No additional resource for search and rescue, with the exception of the downed aircraft that is ongoing that the governor previously mentioned. There'll be more information to be put out at the 3:30 press conference this afternoon. Damage assessments in these areas, of course, will commence in the next few days. We're not going to rush that. We're going to make sure that we establish the lifelines in these communities before we try to get into damage assessments. But we will very rapidly transition to our damage assessments for assessing the damage in those communities over the next 24 to 48 hours. We have been engaged in working with the communities and getting tarps and other supplies delivered to these communities that need to establish and dry-proof their homes in the event of all the rain. We'll continue to support them in any way that we need to. And finally, just want to thank the Governor and Secretary of State Hosen for coming out and responding rapidly to our state of emergency that certainly we'll need as we move forward for any declarations or requests from the federal government for disaster response. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Marshall Fisher.
Thank you, Director. From 1500 yesterday afternoon until 0600 this morning, we responded, Department of Public Safety elements responded to 154 calls for service. We worked 58 traffic accidents. One of those was a fatality in Tate County. We do not think that one was weather-related at this time. One trooper in a vehicle in Troop E up in Greenwood who struck a tree that was lined across the road. We had multiple calls for service for trees and power lines down on the highways. We were involved in the closure of Mississippi 14 in Holmes County due to the collapse of the roadway. I believe at this time it is still shut down. Traffic control on US 80 in Warren County. Multiple calls for storm debris blocking the roadway and water over the roads. We assisted in securing the area in the proximity of the aircraft disaster that's been mentioned here. Responded to the tornado damaged area in Monroe County. Currently we have 20 troopers on the ground there that will be working in shifts from now until at least 1,800 hours on Thursday. I would remind and caution the public, if you do not have business in these areas, do not travel to these areas and allow the first responders and the other people who are on the ground to get their jobs done. There'll be plenty of time for picture taking after this is done. Please respect those who have been affected by this storm. And again, if you don't have to be there, don't be there. I would also say that these situations are fluid. There's constant contact between myself and Director Michel and the Governor's office. And I appreciate MEMA's support and look forward to that continued good working relationship in the future. Thank you.
As you heard, the Department of Public Safety is responding along with the local Sheriff's Department, first responders. To clarify on the downed aircraft, it is a Sabre Learjet, a corporate charter that we believe was down shortly after 5 p.m. yesterday. Sheriff Edwards will have additional information regarding the identity of those that were lost in that crash at 3:30 this afternoon. I want to thank FEMA for being here. FEMA has always responded in a timely manner and worked very carefully with MEMA, and we, following the declaration of state of emergency, we will be working to assess the damages, to make sure that if we have an opportunity for individual assistance under the FEMA regulatory standards, we accomplish that, and we'll also be looking at public assistance as well. So we wanted to update you and give you as much information as we could about this particular incident. We hope this one will give us an opportunity to get a rest so that we will finish the work on this event, and hopefully as we look at hurricane season starting the 1st of May, we'll be able to gather our personnel and assets and be ready for any future occurrence. Thank you. Have questions, we'll be glad to respond to them. Yes, ma'am.
Governor Bryant, Jasmine Ellis, MPB News. I know you said it'll take some time to do some damage assessments within the next couple of days. Do you have a timeline of maybe how long the cleanup efforts might take, although you don't know?
Really don't know. It depends on the amount of damage, and we will work with the local emergency management offices there, and our people are in the field today. Some with MEMA. We'll put more in the affected area tomorrow, and it just depends on the amount of structures that we have to identify and the level of damage that there may be there. Greg, you want to respond to it?
No, just concur to what the governor said. We will begin damage assessments in some areas as early as tomorrow. Again, the first priority is to make sure that everyone has got a safe place to be. And once we get that and get roadways open, then we'll begin damage assessments as early as tomorrow.
I do understand that schools will be closed, I believe, in Monroe County due to the lack of power there, and also in Vicksburg. So schools will not be open in Monroe County or Vicksburg tomorrow, but all other schools will be open. Yes, ma'am.
The jet that crashed, was that weather related, did you say?
I can't tell just now. It occurred somewhat before the weather system reached that Union County, but I'm sure there'll be a thorough investigation, and we'll be able to determine the cause of the crash sometimes in the future. But it is impossible to tell just now whether or not it was weather related. Thank you very much.